What's the laziest, easiest way you've lost weight? Story number 1. Passively rode a recumbent exercise bike while I played video games. I played a few hours a day, and I honestly didn't even notice I was riding. Looked down at the end of the night to see I've rode 20 miles. One day I played games all day and it said I rode over 100 miles and burned like 6,000 calories. Story number 2. Psyllium husk. This shit is magic and really feels like cheating. Basically, it is pure fiber, 0 calories, and has the interesting property of expanding when getting in contact with water. It will expand inside your stomach, giving you the nice feeling of being full. Hunger is gone. On top of that, it gives you perfect poops and can also help with other digestive issues, all while being completely natural and having a very neutral taste. Only important thing is to consume it with lots of water, otherwise it can cause constipation itself. Story number 3. It may sound crazy, but I go for walks. That sounds like a bigger hassle than it actually is, especially if you are blessed with a forest or at least a decent park near your house. In my case, I smoke a fat doink. Obviously not required, but it helped me with motivation, and I would have smoked either way and go for a walk through the forest for mental health at first. From that point on, I sorta made it habit. Walking long distances got easier and easier. Since I don't want to go to the forest every day, I started going for less smoky and less naturey walks. I use a step counter to get a hold of how much I'm doing and gamify the journey. Is just so much more fun to see yourself hitting your step goals day by day, and since you're gonna make some progress, you will realize that your old goals don't even challenge you anymore, and you set higher goals. Additional motivation. Apart from that, I tried eating less, no calorie counting or anything. I never planned cheat days. I just ate more when I felt like it because I always knew I was on the right path anyway. The results speak for themselves. Within the last couple months, I dropped like 25 to 30 kilograms. In that whole time, I never forced myself to eat things I didn't want to eat. Didn't stay hungry when I would have liked to eat. Didn't work out when I didn't want to. Overall, I think the most important part is to enjoy the journey, not only the results. You should find a sport, activity that is a hobby, not a chore. Listen to your body when it comes to food. Am I hungry or am I bored? Am I not eating because I want to lose weight or because I'm genuinely not that hungry? Story number 4. I wasn't particularly desperate to lose weight, but I'd run into some money problems due to not having had a raise in years, and union negotiations were dragging on a bit. So when the company announced a Biggest Loser contest, I threw my money in the pot. Halfway through the 90-day contest, the company announced company-wide layoffs. It was real Russian roulette style. Nobody even knew which departments would be targeted, much less which people. I made the mistake of saying, within earshot of my boss, that I couldn't decide whether to take one of the company's generous buyout packages or whether to stick with what I knew. I kept my job and got my raise. The whole contest had been done blind. Nobody knew how anyone else was doing, though we were all doing fairly regular weigh-ins. However, they posted the results at the end. Of the 100 or so people who had signed up, nobody else had lost a double-digit amount of weight in pounds. What's more, it looked as if the 90% of people who had given up had either done so within a week of starting or within a week of layoffs being announced. Of the handful that were left, I'd lost about 30 pounds over 3 months and collected a check for $1,076. It was the easiest money I ever made, and over the next year, I put all the weight back on. Story number 5. Diabetes. Around a decade ago, after being around to 130 for a few years, I started drinking a lot more and wasn't watching my diet or exercising. At doctor's appointments, I watched my weight go to 250, 270, 290. I knew I was gonna end up over 300. I stopped drinking right before I ended up being diagnosed as type 2, so that cut a lot of calories and the calories from the associated snacking. I would get ravenously hungry for any type of garbage food. When I was drunk, had a checkup. My doctor did an A1C test and called me to come in immediately because my A1C was so high. She wanted to discuss it right away and get me on insulin. When I went in that evening, she had me get on the scale and I noticed two things. The first was that I could read the scale. My massive gut wasn't blocking my view, and the second was that the scale read 240 when it should have been over 300. My blood sugar was just under 600, so my body wasn't even utilizing food that I ate, because my blood literally couldn't hold more sugar. Without getting nourishment from food, my body started using fat to power itself, thus I lost 50 pounds. I changed my diet and got on insulin and got all my numbers where they should be, and my weight stayed level. I'm now on Ozempic instead of insulin, and the pounds are dropping like crazy again. I was down to 210 at my last visit. I expect to be in the 190s when I go again in a few weeks. Story number 6. Too much stress, suddenly dropped 5 kilograms in 1 to 2 months one winter. It was scary and I thought it would continue, and I needed to visit a doctor. Then we had the Christmas break, and I never dropped any lower since then. Now my meds dropped to kilograms and immediately started to eat more. Was scary too because of my ed in the past. I had to go on the scale again, which I didn't do for almost a year. It's honestly hard to not go on the scale every day again and monitor my weight, like it determines my value as a person. If anyone wants my advice, yes, weight is an indicator. But more important might be to look at what kind of food you eat, how much you move, and how much energy you have. If I eat too little, I can barely do my everyday tasks and work. If I don't eat enough good food, vegetables, fruits, nuts, nutrient-filled food, I feel yucky. If I barely move, I feel less energized. If I always forbid myself some food for my nerves, sweets, snacks, treats, I feel bad. And of course, always drink enough water. If you need some flavor in it, better than a bottle of Coke. But if you need a bottle of Coke, that's okay too, just maybe not always Coke instead of water. But I would also not judge someone for always drinking Coke. And lastly, find nutrient-rich food you like to eat. I really like a nice salad, so it is easier for me to eat veggies in that form. Or I add some mayo and salt to my tomatoes. Yummy. Sadly, I can't eat apples anymore. They give me a bloaty belly which hurts. Story number 7. Intermittent fasting. No working out, no dieting whatsoever. I tried all that, and the effort was not at all redeeming. It was just grueling, hugely disappointing and discouraging. Fasting was it for me. I'd have coffee in the morning with lots of cream, then wait to eat till 4 p.m., and it was literally effortless weight loss. The only thing I avoided was refined sugars, sweets. Now that I'm merely maintaining and not losing weight, I just fast till noon and eat whatever the hell I want all day, including sweets. At first it made no sense to me that the least effort brought me the best results, but I think the reason my final method worked so well was because it didn't make my stress hormones shoot through the roof, nor send my fat storage into survival mode. It wasn't until I stopped both dieting and intense exercise that my body was able to respond to the calorie deficit by actually burning fat rather than holding onto it for dear life.